In Talent, Oregon, just steps from Broadway Alley, the lights come up. Rehearsal becomes performance. Process becomes story. And artists meet audience in the same room. This is where Broadway meets talent.
And welcome to Where Broadway Meets Talent, where we explore the artists, the process, and the creative work behind the productions here at Camelot Theatre in Talent, Oregon. I'm Brian O'Connor, and on today's episode, we are looking ahead to Camelot's upcoming musical, Sugar, a lively, hilarious, and heartfelt show that actually has its roots in one of the most beloved comedy films of all time. Joining me on the podcast today is someone who is certainly no stranger to the Southern Oregon performing arts community or to Camelot Theatre. The director of Camelot's production of Sugar, Haley Jane Forsyth. Welcome to the podcast, Haley.
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with the big picture. For audiences who may not recognize the title Sugar right away, what exactly is this show?
So, Sugar is a musical based off the hit film Some Like It Hot, featuring Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, and Jack Lemmon as the three lead characters. Sugar is based off Marilyn Monroe's character. The titular character is Sugar Cane, who is a performer, and all three of them are actually musicians.
So one of the fun things about this musical, obviously, as you said, it's based on this incredible film. For people who love the movie, what elements of the story will feel familiar to them when they see the stage version?
So some of the elements that will feel familiar to them will be things like the main storyline is the exact same, where our two main characters, Joe and Jerry, are musicians who are down on their luck. They're looking for a job. And in the midst of all of that, they see a hit basically taken out, and they see some mob business that they shouldn't see, as Joe puts it. And after that, they, through a series of different job offerings and whatnot, actually end up joining an all-female band that's on their way to Florida from Chicago, where they are. And so they're going far away to where it's sunny and warm and away from crime. And so they go ahead and they join in to this girls' band in disguise as ladies. So anybody who's a fan of the film will get to see some familiar, fun drag hijinks as far as our two leading men go. And they'll also get to see a lot of the fun from just the script of the original is such a big influence on the musical script. There's so much love for the original film. There's a lot of iconic lines that people will be able to quote and will recognize when they see this, that has a lot of the same elements of, the love story of Sugar falling for this millionaire who actually turns out to be her friend in the band, who really turns out to be Joe. And so there's all these layers to all of that are really exciting and fun.
So Sugar has such a distinctive style. I mean, we have comedy, we have romance, disguise, music, and a lot of fast-paced energy. So as a director, what excites you most about working on a show like this?
I think what excites me the most about working on a show like this is getting to work with such an amazing script with an amazing cast. I have a whole group of people who are always ready to work, always willing to play, always willing to give me big ideas and take chances, which I absolutely love. I'm getting both the chance to work with a lot of new, talented people that I've never worked with before, a lot of new to me talent, as well as getting to work with some dear, dear friends who I've met through a series of shows, many of which have been at Camelot Theatre. I get to work with my fiance Ryder, who I got to work with on The Hunchback of Notre Dame first, and then I got to direct him first in Peter Pan, which was just such a delight. And so it's wonderful to get to work with him again in this capacity, especially with him in kind of the lead of this show. Even though the show is named Sugar, I really feel like Joe, Jerry, and Sugar all share the spotlight in one way or another. And have their overarching different storylines. It's also been a treat to work with people like Juliana and Zach, who are both dear friends of mine and who I have been impressed with on stage and working with them in many theater capacities, all mixed out. And it's a real treat to get to let them go and see what they present to me. Constantly say when I talk to people about this show that a lot of the funny ideas that you'll see aren't I can't actually take credit for. My actors are brilliant and they're smart and they're funny and they understand the wit and the style of this show. It being based on a 1950s film, it's set in the 1930s. There's a lot of style, there's a lot of history, there's a lot of nostalgia in this show. And I think that they both tackle the nostalgia and the history of this show well, while also presenting it in a way that is completely palatable and hilarious to modern audiences.
When you're casting a show like this, what is it you're looking for in the audition process?
So first and foremost, I'm looking for people who want to be there. I am delighted to have a cast who is excited to be in this show and is excited to do theater in general. There's nothing quite like working with a group of theater makers who are all completely dedicated to the show and want it to be good and each do their part. On top of that, of course, talent speaks for itself, and I'm very fortunate to have had so many wonderful people come out and audition for this show. A lot of diverse talent. We have great dancers, great actors, great singers. We have a whole mix of different talents that we're bringing together, and I feel like that's truly the spirit of community theater when it comes to things, because it doesn't lack a sense of professionalism, but it does have a stronger sense of community. These are all local people from right here within however many miles of the theater, many of whom have grown up here, many of whom have grown up in the Camelot programs and different things. And so to get to share the stage with them and to be still working here after about 11 or so years now is really just a treat.
Right. You mentioned the nostalgia. And so this show, I mean, it has such a strong sense of time and place. As a director, how do you approach bringing that world to life on the Camelot stage?
One of the things that I really looked at when I approached this was how is this show going to look? And of course, that comes down to everything from the set design, which my partner writer actually had a lot of help in helping me build a set that we wouldn't have to change a lot, which is important to me as a director in a show. And then we added some Art Deco feel to it, because even though it is in the 1930s, it's very early 1930s. I feel like there's still a lot of Japanese influence. So you'll see that in the set design. You'll see that in the costume design. There's still a lot of flapper era design in the costumes and the feel of the silhouettes. It also comes into the choreography. I'm the choreographer of this show as well as the director. And so I've incorporated a lot of homages to big band style, which is, it's an all girls big swing band, bandstand style band. And so there's a lot of elements of that kind of choreography, even though there's not a ton of it. It's still very stylized movement. There is swing dancing. There's the gangsters, of course, that play a huge part of this show. And so you'll see a lot of those pinstripe and gangster hat silhouettes as well. Lots of exciting things visually, I think, that really will capture the history. And then on top of that, working with the actors on trying to get some style as far as a little bit of dialect and accent work, just slightly. It's not anything super heavy, but we do want to stay true to the language and the era of this show. I think that it really is a product of its time, even though some of the messages in it are unfortunately still very relevant today.
So musicals can sometimes feel very different from straight plays in terms of pacing and energy. What are some of the unique challenges or joys of directing a musical like this?
One of the things that I really enjoyed about doing this show in particular was that I decided right from the beginning that because of all of the comedy in the script that is inspired by vaudeville and this very tongue-in-cheek humor, that I really wanted to allow the actors to have freedom to do things like that. Almost every time that an actor has come to me with, hey, this might be too over the top or this might be too big, I haven't really said no to anything yet. And I think that's something that's really freeing for both me as a director and for my actors to have a show like this. And I don't think that, that's appropriate for every style of show. Absolutely. But with Sugar it is such a break the fourth wall type of musical where there are so many nods to the audience. We have added in little parts of blocking and movement even that take it to that next level. The whole stage has footlights on the end of it, so you never get the sense that you're coming out of a show. It's all very much a night of entertainment the entire time that you're there. And we acknowledge that. And so even though our characters are going through very real, dire situations, at the end of the day, it is a musical comedy. And so the comedy is there. It is a self aware show for sure. And I think that the pacing is fast and upbeat because any time that this show might have an opportunity to slow down, instead there's a song or there's a big dance number. And I love the excitement and the joy of that.
We're visiting with Haley Jane Forsyth, director and choreographer of Sugar, which opens at Camelot Theatre on March 25th. So, one of the things audiences often fall in love with in this story are the characters themselves. Are there particular characters or relationships that you're especially excited for audiences to meet?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that only heightens Sugar from the movie it's based on, which is Some Like It Hot, is how we get a deeper look at our main characters. I think that we get a deeper look at Joe and Jerry, who are our two lead musicians who are down on their luck and end up having to run away in disguise as women. And they share a very special bond where it's a little bit of infighting, almost like an old married couple. But at the same time, you can tell that they absolutely care about each other and put each other's safety um, at a very high level. And there's a definite amount of respect that they have for each other, even though they're kind of constantly getting the other one in trouble, or potentially doing so. I also think that we get a little bit deeper look at Sugar as a character and as a person, and that's really exciting for me as well because Marilyn Monroe is absolutely funny and brilliant in the movie. And I think that something that's especially fun to see is Juliana playing this character is not a Marilyn Monroe copy by any means, but she absolutely captures the heart and the wit and the care that I would hope that someone would take with this kind of character. So that's been really exciting. And it's really lovely to get to see her work with writer as Joe as a pairing in this show. I think that their relationship and their chemistry is really great. It's one of the reasons I cast them across each other is because they have really great chemistry. But I also think that Jerry also ends up having a really nice, lovely relationship that people who are fans of the movie might see in a new light in the musical because it is a little bit more caring and a little bit more romantic. And I
Hmm.
honestly think it's very sweet and that there is an added level of unconditional love and care that comes into our show on top of it already being a very funny and a very sweet script to begin with.
Without giving anything away, are there moments in the show that you think audiences are going to be especially delighted by?
Oh, absolutely. I think that seeing how Joe and Jerry handle every moment of this comedy of errors and how they get out of things will certainly be a delight. Just the way that they interact in their physical comedy alone, I think, will be something that they enjoy. I also really hope they like the dances. We've put a lot of fun heart into these dances, and it's every one of them. I mean, I tell my cast constantly, oh, this reminds me of, or this is inspired of dance from the White Christmas movie or from some other old film that I grew up with because I myself am a huge fan of old musical theater. So getting to work on a show that is such a love letter to old musical theater was so fun in that aspect. I think audiences will also be really excited to see just a new twist on such a classic funny thing. There's so many people who have told me, "Oh, when I told so and so that this is based on Something Like It Hot, they got so excited." And I think that there's nothing better than finding something that is inspired by something that you love and getting a further delight out of that because of this continuation and this love letter to it. And Sugar certainly is both a love letter to the movie and its whole own complete set of delight and fun musical comedy all in and of itself.
Let's talk just for a second here about the Camelot production specifically. I mean, you have been part of the Camelot family for many years now. What excites you about bringing this show to Camelot stage?
Well, first and foremost, I very much enjoy getting to direct here. I feel very fortunate to have a place directing at at a place where I've acted and where I've gotten to work with such lovely directors. So that feels like a lovely honor in the first place. I'm also particularly excited because I have never done a show here where I haven't also had kids involved. And that is its own challenge. And it's something that I very much enjoy. I've worked on shows like Peter Pan and The Sound of Music, where our kids are just a delight. But I will say that it also has an element and to me a responsibility of teaching a portion of theater. And so it's exciting to do this show because there's not a single person in this room who's never done theater before. It's a cast of people who are all familiar with the etiquette and just the basics of things. So we can just dive right into the material, which has been very exciting. I think I'm
Mhm.
also really excited about this Camelot production in particular because this is a stage that I so enjoy performing on, and I love to direct shows that I would like to be in. So getting to be so familiar with the space, I was able to utilize and kind of think ahead of how can I maximize the use of my actors in this show? And how can I make things the most comfortable for them and make this the most fun experience for them as well as for our audiences? Because that's really important to me. And that's something that I knew I could do in this space. And I knew that I could promise with having worked with this theater before and having that experience on the other side of it.
There's also such a strong tradition of musical theater at Camelot. Camelot's done everything from like two-person musicals to big 25, almost 30-person musicals. So, um, coming into Camelot and directing a big musical like that, does that influence your approach that you take to directing the production?
Absolutely. My first production with Camelot was Oklahoma, which I think, yeah, we might have had a 20 something person cast, and it was a very big cast. And when you're thinking about that, that's one of the reasons I wanted to choreograph is because so much of the show I have to visualize anyway with these big moving parts as far as whole ensembles of people that are all working together, 6 bodies, 9 bodies on stage, 12 bodies on stage at once. And how do we work that? And how do we work a set that people aren't constantly having to set change? And how do we incorporate dance that both fills the stage but also isn't overwhelming for any set designer to have to accommodate while also making an actual set happen. So all of those challenges are really interesting but really fun to get to work with. I also really enjoy just working on musicals in general. I enjoy working as a director on straight plays as well, but there is something that is so visceral to me about the music aspect of musicals, and getting to take those deep dives in all of those songs is something that I've always enjoyed and is how I started in theater. And so I feel like I will always come back to it.
You've been in rehearsal now for several weeks. You're just right around the corner from opening. How has the rehearsal process been so far?
The rehearsal process has been lovely. Like I said, we have a very hardworking and dedicated cast, which makes my job really easy. We're in run throughs now, so that's really exciting to get to see the entire thing as a whole. And it's really fun to get to hear the cast react to scenes that they've never seen before that others are doing and hear their takes on different people's comedy. So that's been an absolute joy. And I've really enjoyed working with this cast, a lot of whom are my friends. My associate director is Bree Gowland, who is one of my best friends and who I actually met doing a show here at Camelot. There's actually quite a few people that the only reason I know them is because of a Camelot show. So that's pretty special to get to work with them in this capacity and to just have rehearsals where I get to go hang out with 12 of my best friends and do some dance and have a great time. So that's been absolutely lovely.
For someone who might be considering coming to see Sugar but doesn't know much about it, what would you say to them to invite them into the experience?
I would say that if you are a fan of classic comedy, of old, straight man, funny man duo comedy, that this would be for you. I would say that if you are a fan of any romantic comedy, this is absolutely a show that you will enjoy. And I think that it is a great love letter, like I said, to musical theater in general. So if you're a fan of the old musicals like the Rogers and Hammersteins, the Cole Porters, all of those type of things, I absolutely think that this is right up your alley. It's one of the lesser known shows from the 70s, and so I feel as though it's actually kind of one of the last shows in musical theater that was still sticking to that old style before we got to the newer style of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Sondheim and all of that, which I'm a huge fan of. But it is interesting to see how that transition kind of happened right around the time of Sugar. So it was kind of one last hurrah that I think that people will love. And on top of all of that, I think that it's just a very funny show. I think that anybody who's a fan of a good laugh, especially it's a pretty quick show. It's only about 2 hours and some change with intermission, and so that's a nice fun night of theater in my mind. Is you come, you have some great laughs, you're entertained, and you get to have a little weight of the world off your shoulders, if only for an evening.
Before we wrap up, what are you most excited about for audiences to experience when opening night arrives?
I think I'm most excited for audiences to experience the heart that is this show. I think that when people think Some Like It Hot, they absolutely think the comedy and the shenanigans and the twists and turns and the iconic actors that have played the roles in the movie. But when I think of this show and our production in particular, I think about the heart that is in it, and I think about the way that it makes me feel, which is overjoyed and fortunate and inspired. And I hope that audiences are also inspired, and I hope that they um, seek out the relationships in their life that make things so worthwhile, because I think that's something that all of the characters in this show share, is they figure out what makes things worth it, and it's usually the other people in their lives, and they do what they can to keep those people there. And I think that that's really something that's admirable and something that I personally want to do more of.
All right. Haley Jane Forsyth, director and choreographer of Sugar, thank you so much for taking time to share your insight into this production and the world of Sugar.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Camelot Theater's production of Sugar opens on Wednesday, March 25th with a Pay What You Can preview performance on the 26th, and the official opening night is Friday, March 27th. The show runs through April 19th. Tickets and all the information on the show available at CamelotTheater.org. You can listen to Where Broadway Meets Talent on all major podcast platforms, and you can watch the full video version on YouTube. I'm Brian O'Connor. Thanks for spending time with us, and we will see you at the theater.